Hello and welcome to Clustertruck. And yeah, this is yet another one of those games that doesn't play any audio when the window is not selected. So that was a slight pain in the butt. Let's take a look through some things here. I've already looked over the controls and they're pretty much where I want them to be. Hopefully I can remember all of this. Do we have to set our abilities to start with, or do we like... Oh, okay, these are unlocked later, I guess. This is more of a high score thing. Yeah, that is kind of an... Well... There is a randomizer for Forbidden Memories, and that would make for some very silly things in general, but... Yeah, so we'll deal with that later, but for now, we're going to try and dive into this and check out some of this campaign. This is looking very... This kind of has the vibes of being like an asset flip, but... Oh, good lord, that music got a lot louder. And the game sort of started to choke a little bit. Oh. I am trying to move the right stick to look around, but I guess only the mouse does that. Okay, so... Sure, that happened. See, it's saying A to jump. I am hammering every button on the goddamn controller, and it doesn't want to let me jump, so I guess we're WASD. I have to use the arrow keys to move instead of... Oh, this is broken. This is having some issues. Oh, no. That's deeply unfortunate, because I was like... This sounds like fun in kind of a stupid way. And I do kind of want to emphasize in a stupid way, because this is kind of just... This is significantly more like asset flip grade than I thought it was, but I also don't remember when I bought this. I probably bought it when it was new, because I was like, oh, that's funny. It's called Clustertruck, and it's... Look at this nonsense. But so far, yeah. This is much jankier than all of that. This might not have anywhere near as much to it as I was kind of hoping for. Maybe we'll see more in like the next world or whatever it is. Whatever division they want to use for these. Oh, shit. Am I gonna have to go into the, Well, I don't have big rigs is the problem. I'm gonna hit the main menu here, and I'm going to go into double-checking my controls here. Yeah, see, it says keyboard controls are rebindable launcher, which is a bit of a problem, because... I'm a little bit not in the launcher right now. So, give me just a second here to go double check that. And yeah, we're gonna be a couple of minutes here. Maybe restarting it will just make my my controller inputs actually function correctly, which would be a huge asset on several levels here. Okay, was it just my forward that wasn't bound correctly? Because for some reason it was bound to left click on the mouse, probably because I was trying to rebind those to controller buttons, and that's not how it works because the launcher is very confusing. And now we get to sit here and look at a white screen as we load for a bit. Well, incredible. Incredible. Oh, it's certainly turning into one, Roundy. You see, it's published by Tiny Build, so like an actual company was involved with this at some juncture or another. Yeah, but for some reason this doesn't want to load any of my my Xbox buttons as being anything other than those. How am I? I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, Roundy? No, we're sticking to our good old WASD and our mouse. Hopefully that all actually works correctly now, but we'll find out. Burgundy's got you itching to play Rogue Legacy again. Yeah, I seen him playing some Rogue Legacy. Rogue Legacy was a pretty good game. I remember being really bad at it, though, because I'm kind of bad at, like, any platformer, really, but... God, the last time I played that was probably like 10 years ago. And this should surprise almost nobody, played it because of Plastic Alan. And by almost nobody, I mean almost nobody who's ever seen any of his YouTube content to know that he played that on YouTube many a year ago now. Probably like 15 years ago. Holy shit, that was back when the Brywheel forums were a thing. The Brywheel fora, as it were, if you choose to pronounce the plural of forum as fora, is you take a specifically very Roman-esque way of doing that, but the English language does not. Did I say Roman? I clearly meant Latin, but because we're talking languages, not. But hey, I never was necessarily the best spoken person in the big rocks. Big rocks. That's good. Oh, we're gonna have to do something about this. What if we simply do not advance on the trucks and we just let the rocks fall and everyone die? Will that do us any good? As we truck around and find out? Almost. Anyway, I'm not gonna lie, I'm sorely tempted to just go and look at when Alan played Rogue Legacy. But yeah, that was back when Bryself and Round the Wheel had a forum for a community, and nowadays it's Discord servers, because that is where the internet has gone. And to be quite frank with you, I don't know if that was necessarily the best idea for us to do as a general public, but such is the way of things. People wanted ease, and quite frankly, it's better that than a fucking Reddit. Considering a return. I do not blame you. I did buy a small PC recently because I kind of want to host my internet trash that's not social media or streaming on a separate web server, but I'd have to like learn how to use something like that as a proper web server, because my goodness, it has been even a longer time compared to when I played Rogue Legacy last, when I last touched something like XAMPP. And even then, I'm sure that somebody will be like, oh, that's not the best solution to do a web server, and you're probably correct. I don't disagree with that. Especially because that PC is totally blank, and I would have to install Linux on it anyway, so at that point it's like, well, fuck it, why don't I just learn how to do a lamp stack and just you know, I'd say earn my hardcore points, but like, you can't be cool when you're doing something like that. Not only because running Linux on a machine is like super nerd shit, but also because all the other Linux people are just such fucking cunts. Like, I cannot even begin to explain how awful, like, okay, no, that's a bit of a stretch, but Linux people are definitely, there's a certain degree of, like, smugness that tends to crop up in that territory. And to explain for anybody who's like, what the hell are you even talking about? LAMP stands for, I believe the abbreviation is typically something like Linux, Apache, MySQL, and Python. Basically, sort of like a stack of software that you would use on a web server. And there's some more stuff to it, too, that goes into running a web server. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying I even really understand how to do it. XAMPP, spelled XAMPP, is a program that I used back in college. Basically, literally just so that way I could do my my comp sci homework for, I was in like a web design class, and they were like, hey, you're going to use this, and you're going to upload your work this way. Which is fair enough, actually, for the sort of environment that we're talking about. If you're learning about like web stuff, granted, when I say web design, I mean it was like basically just how to build websites. It wasn't, I didn't learn how to make applications or anything like that. So for anyone who's out here like, oh, you're ahead of the curve. No, I'm not. I don't have anything like in my weird ancestral DNA there to harken back to like some sort of coelacanth about how to develop anything really more impressive than a cascading style sheet. But yeah, basically, I kind of think that with the way things are going right now, going backwards to a, like past web technologies, not a bad choice. And that includes forums and stuff of that nature. And yeah, better than Reddit is kind of like the bar is in hell, but in this case, I'm not necessarily talking about like a user base kind of thing. I'm just talking about like usability. I would prefer a Discord server to having to do things on a subreddit by a wide margin, but obviously a Discord server is still what we shall politely call not the preferred choice for anything of that nature, whether it's for communication purposes or, God help you, for information storage. There are people nowadays who have like major pieces of information locked in Discords for how to use software and stuff, and it's like, why would you do that? Which I think, why would you do that is a pretty good alternate name for this particular stage of Truck Month here. It is also, like, significantly worse, in my opinion, because with Discord servers, things can kind of be, like, permanently deleted with no evidence. And a lot of the functionality of any of the tools or anything is also dependent very heavily on the quality of the folks operating them. Like, I'm not exactly good at doing any of that stuff with Discord, and I am not particularly good at, like, using searches for anything like that, whereas your average forum software actually has fucking search tools installed in it. I think you'd have to go back to, like, the 90s to not be able to get at least a little bit of that. And the fact that people can just delete stuff from from a Discord server permanently. I mean, I've had some friends who that's happened to for like other reasons besides just like, oh yeah, it sucks that information can just be lost that way. But I don't want to get too much into like, you know, talking shit about somebody who I haven't been friends with for 8 years. But yeah, setting that aside, it's just the fact that that information is a little bit easier to abruptly destroy, I feel. It's quite possible to do that anyway, but like, at least with a website, it takes arguably slightly more effort, or maybe it just feels like it does. In any case, yeah, I just... like, some people just probably accuse me of being old, which, again, not necessarily wrong. How many levels are in this game? I have no idea. I'm just gonna go until there aren't any, I guess. So, I mean, yeah, a lot of... like, I always think that there is a reason to beware of getting too nostalgic, but there are definitely a few things here and there where you can say provably, yeah, okay, some things were better in the past, some things were worse. I mean, do you want to go back so far to a period when we didn't have certain types of health inspection and you had people who were doping milk by putting chalk into it to make it look whiter, or white paint or stuff like that? And that's not the kind of thing that you should have nostalgia for. And the quality of art is something that is deeply subjective. A lot of the time, it's just like, that was better because you were young and everything was good when you were young. But I think we can provably say that certain technologies nowadays are like bad, and the increased proliferation of them is also kind of bad. Like, it's probably not good that we all spend so much time on social media, and it's even worse when all of it is being coded by a machine that doesn't actually understand anything. It just draws best fit lines. This is also sort of a not at all subtle jab at Blue Sky, which earlier today was suffering from a lot of issues. Like, right after Jay or whoever the fuck from that website was like, oh yeah, we use AI to build our product. Yeah, no kidding. That's why it's a smoldering mess that only half of the time works. Especially lately. Maybe if you'd kept the actual human-developed code. But on the other hand, you do have to eventually go like, don't we also appreciate the elimination of anything that has to do with Jack Dorsey? To which I say, only his life. But I digress. Yeah, exactly. It's like, it probably could not have been blamed on it, but also, I mean, vibe coders die in a tire fire. Now, I don't have a full claim to be like, you're killing my potential livelihood, because even though I went to college for that, that's not what I graduated a degree in. But I did originally start pursuing higher education with comp sci as my target. And then I couldn't hack it, and I became a philosopher instead, which might be the only... that might be the only thing that's, like, even less respectable than being an AI code developer. Depending on the philosopher, anyway. Besides, I think I'm pretty sure that, like, almost any interesting philosopher I probably have at least some smoke for. Unfortunately. But let's not even go there, because I can't even remember anything, so... Anyway, a lot of trucks. Yeah, this is sometimes what it's like being on the highway. God, I haven't like traveled out of state in almost 10 years either. Not quite actually 10 years, because I did go to Gen Con at one point during the first presidency of Donald Trump, which, you know, real good time for me to have been like starting to understand that I was not cisgender, right? Is like right in the mid 2010s. I think I told the story of like how the day that he was elected, I basically just laid face down in a room with the lights off, and just kind of cried and listened to Alice in Chains' album Dirt, which BT dubs, if I've ever like randomly sent someone in my life as part of a gift a copy of that album, that's kind of why, is because that was the thing that I did when I was like afraid of dying. Is I was just like, listen to this absolutely miserable wreck of an album about a guy who in about 10 years time was going to die in one of the most upsetting ways of heroin addiction for an entire day, and cried for 4 hours, didn't listen. That's entirely fair. It definitely is like, that was sort of a moment of like, so this is it, huh? Everything's over, right? And I think on some level everything was over long before that, maybe, but that probably cuts to something a little bit deeper. But sometimes it's something visceral that really will hit the nail. But yeah, last time I think that was the last time I ever traveled outside the state, was in 2017, and I traveled to Indianapolis, to go to a card game convention. A game that I would be quitting in like 3 years, and I didn't know it yet. So, you know, ultimately, hey, enough of the bad vibes and the bad times. I don't know how that happened. I guess because I was just thinking about the trucks. But sometimes you'll just end up in like this weird position when you're driving on the highway, and you will sometimes end up feeling like, oh, we're going 80 miles an hour, and yet we're not moving at the exact same time. And I gotta imagine shit's even more weird if you're driving. I have never driven a car for longer than like a few minutes learning how to drive. And that didn't exactly, I mean, technically I could probably operate a car if I had to, but I don't have a driver's license because I freaked out behind the wheel the first time. It was sort of like this Call of the Void kind of effect. Anyway, Tav, what you have just walked into, this is a game called Clustertruck. We are platforming on top of trucks. Our goal is to get to the goal at the end of a level whilst jumping around on these trucks, because there's kind of a lot of them. Strangely enough, not a whole lot of them have logs sticking out of the back, which I think would really help set the atmosphere a little bit, but I digress. It just looks like where you live. I believe it. Especially with the explosion, right? Fuck! I wasn't... God damn it. I'm losing my marbles here. I didn't really have them to begin with, but That's just the meth lab down the street. Right? No. I live in the country, so the meth lab down the street is probably nearer to me than you. But nope. Didn't have anything coming up behind me. I don't have a crouch, I just have a sprint. I've got an SBC Ameritech. I've got an MCI. I've got a AT&T, but they can go to hell. Oops. Somehow I clicked out of the window. Good job. Drive better than half the people in the U.S. Oh, I've seen how some people drive before, so that's not actually wrong. So, like, you get to wake up, and I still kind of live in the Chicagoland area, so it's like, oh, I get to walk past someone watching the news. Oh, you mean somebody fucked up horribly on the Dan Ryan again? Well, I'll be damned. Maybe they should just get rid of highways, honestly. Actually, maybe I think I believe that, but they drive way faster in Canada. That's kind of impressive in a certain way, but there's fewer people in Canada, which probably means fewer people on the road, so maybe they can get away with it. Meanwhile, there's like how many people in the US? Like over 300 million? And sure, they don't all own cars, but like just think about it. That's a lot of people to go driving, like cause problems, but well, yeah, see, I didn't want to be the one to dox you that you live in upstate New York. Oh, maybe that is a little bit doxing because there's still a couple of places that share a border with Canada, but my thing I was going to say here was that maybe they're driving that fast to get away from the fucking American, right? What if you were in Maine? You're not a lobster, shut up! I don't know. No, for some reason I thought you said that before, that you were in New York. 3 seasons of winter and 1 of summer. Yep. Meanwhile, in the Chicagoland area, it's several seasons of construction and winter. Winter is the season when the potholes crop up, and the rest of the year, all the other road chaos is caused by human hands. That's the Midwest for you, baby. Anyway, God, I'm having a bad time with this. Fuck. And by bad time, I mean hard, not like, oh, I'm not enjoying this. This is still... Now that I'm past my controller woes, it is kind of funny. I had something else I was going to say, and I forgot what it was. That's real good. Oh, yeah, I'm thinking about, like, when did I buy this? Because it came out 10 years ago. Did I buy it at the time? I feel like I remember seeing a lot of stuff for this going around on social media at the time because, well, this is incredibly goofy in its own way. But also, my God, my Steam backlog is huge because I went through like looking for something to do for this, and I ended up reinstalling this for the like gig and a half that it cost, which, boy, with the load time at the start of loading it up, it's like it's putting the whole game in the fucking memory. But I also saw Wizard with a Gun in there, which I still have installed on my PC, and I still haven't played Wizard with a Gun. And I thought about it, and I'm like, I bought that because I wanted to co-op it with somebody. I don't even remember if it has a single-player campaign. Wizard with a Gun, not to be confused with Paradox Entertainment's Magicka, which honestly kind of is that a little bit. Magicka, a game where you can get killed very, very easily by just existing near your friends. It's a fragment of Ride to Hell. I mean... Honestly, I think that Ride to Hell needed a lot more just, like, semi-trucks trying to kill you. Or you actually get to drive one. That would be a... But only if the controls on that were as bad as everything else. Yeah, so I am at least enjoying getting through my Steam backlog because, oh my God, it is huge. I have a whole bunch of old games from Apogee that I do not remember, like, what the deal was with how they all got there. And in fact, I don't know if all of them work on Steam, but I assume they do. You know, they repack shit with DOSBox. We saw that when I played Space Quest last year. I'm pretty sure I played Space Quest last year on here. I think it was last year. It might have been the year before. Time has stopped having meaning to me, which is really cool. Hey, finally we got there. I also saw that I had Needy Streamer Overdose in there, and I almost thought about streaming that, but I'm like, no, that would be, like, upsetting in a certain way, and also not really a good thing to put as a, just a trial game, because that, well, would probably be a little bit too long for that. So, yeah, that's fun. That's one of those games that is, like, massively polarizing on the internet from what I've seen. But also, a lot of the people who don't like it seem to be real shitheads, so, like... That's a whole other to-do, but... You know, maybe it would help once in a while for me to not get too political on this channel. Unfortunately, by virtue of being in a demographic that constitutes being considered political when they appear in video games, by which I mean bugs, not anything, well, and several other things, but... Well, it's all right. I know what could kill a 3-hour stream easily is I could load up Dota and I could random Shadow Demon. It'd also be a great way if you want to see me like start crying on stream. I think I actually wouldn't hate playing as Shadow Demon if I was in a 5-stack. I'll say that, Tav. Unfortunately, with only 2 players and some of the stupidest bots that anybody's ever seen as our partners, that's a bit more of an issue. Ah, that wasn't very smart. I don't know why I thought I could recover from that. It's all this Shadow Demon talk that made me want to jump off a cliff. Keep that amen break going, guys. I want just that for the music now. There we go. We finally got out of that level. And by finally, I mean that was nowhere near as long as the other one. Ah! Just mash the jump button to get up there like you're playing a Bethesda game. Oh, wait, no, sorry. I'm not supposed to mention that anymore because Bethesda games are on the like various don't play lists because of Microsoft being, well, being very shitty in the Middle East. And I get where folks are coming from with that, but also, like, genuinely, what am I supposed to do with the things that I already have, right? Especially if it's old enough that they are most likely not doing telemetry with it. Or, what if I mod it to take the telemetry out? Which is a thing that people have been doing with Minecraft and stuff like that because, well, Minecraft is also owned by Microsoft now because of, well, some reason. And let me tell you what, as much as we want to say shitty things about Microsoft and their behaviors, I would rather Microsoft own it than Notch did, because legitimately Notch is a worse person than whoever at Microsoft is like. You know, Microsoft can do whatever AI, they can sell weapons to, you know, let's not even go too far there. But, like, yeah, that is kind of the difference, though, is that Microsoft doesn't have a personality. It's just a collective of people, of several worms. Yes, exactly. I apologize for using the word people. I was stretching the definition a little bit there, and, you know, my inner prescriptivist would be very mad at me for that, right? I can't offend the 16-year-old still in my heart. Oh, what? Can I clip through that up there? Is that what you mean to tell me? But yeah, like, I'm not gonna go and buy fucking Oblivion Remastered, which, by the way, it was really pathetic to see everybody who had all been on the, like, hey, fuck Microsoft, fuck Bethesda bandwagons for various reasons, just immediately go, oh, that Oblivion Remaster! The word whore is not supposed to be a negative one, because, you know, that's just a profession, but every once in a while, you have to, especially when it is prefaced with the phrase consumer, which also kind of is like a little bit necessarily of not the correct use of the word whore, but I digress. Yeah, exactly. You could just pirate the original and it would look better. Sorry, I mean, and you'd have a better time and more access to mods and stuff, which, yeah, no, playing an Elder Scrolls vanilla all the way through, that requires a level of fortitude that I cannot perceive of on any sort of, like, human level. But I gotta say that that is kind of pathetic, you know, the amount of people who gave up their vow to support the Oblivion remaster. But I think I could come up with I could invent a guy that is sadder in that very specific arena. And that is, now hear me out, that person, but they're not spending money on the remaster of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. They're spending money on Fallout 76. Well, okay, Tav, you want to hear what my champion invent a guy is? Like, if there was a Hall of Fame for, like, shittiest sounding fake dudes anybody ever invented, here's my entry into the Invent a Guy Hall of Fame. A guy who hates the phrase the blowjob brothers because they believe that it suggests incest. Well, maybe that is Soggy Grossman, I don't know. But that's the best response that I've heard in, like, the Oh god, do they? Here's my question. I don't know if you're being serious or not with this statement, but I could absolutely see it, because 14 people are like, no offense to the FF14 people that I've met who are cool. Like, obviously you still play FF14, even though I don't understand why. But I guess, you know, it's like, move over, heroin. There's a new most addictive substance in town. Like, you, most of the other people in Gotz's Discord are pretty cool. My friend May, she's pretty all right. My friend Kyrie, who, God, she hasn't streamed in months. What the hell happened? She's probably really busy. And most of her friends, most. But yeah, I've known some people who played 14 who don't suck. But the community does have a reputation for a reason, and oh ye good lords. I'm sure that it was a stranger you saw get mad. I'm just saying that I totally believe, now that you say that, that that would exist in that community. Because there are some people in the 14 community who are like, they're a level of puritanical that you need, like, a new term for, because I'm pretty sure that even the actual Puritans who were kicked out of Amsterdam for being too up their own asses and landed over here on fucking Plymouth Rock, except not literally, so that way they could have a community somewhere, those people, I'm pretty sure they were significantly cooler than half of those folks, right? Problematic and you know, interestingly, I feel like most of the people that I've met who have been supposedly problematic, at least on the internet, have been like actually really cool. And yet most of the other people who are supposed to be like, you know, the good folks, I'm always just like, check their hard drives, because oh boy. Oh, motherfucking boy. Like, I don't know, Kendrick, do you have the juice for a little bit more dis? Because I think these guys need it too. And you can't even replace it with the prices of SSDs. Yeah. I'm really hoping that the supposed effect that like all those OpenAI projects crashing is supposedly like dropping prices a little bit. I'm hoping that that bears true for at least some length of time, and that it actually like helps slightly normalize the market. It won't, but I would certainly like that to be the case, because yeah, for a start, I could always use more storage. I create video based projects on the internet, so storage space is something that I always feel like I could use more of. And also, I mean, in general, my PC is sort of like limping its way towards some sort of coffin type of construction nowadays. It is rather aged. I definitely got this like RAM and MOBO upgrade, and sure, it's like, okay, you've got 64 gigs of RAM. You've got 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM. Real cool. And you're on a processor that's like 6 years old or something. I feel like the need for enhanced enhanced hardware is dialing up, like it's ramping up faster than it has in a while. Go to your location right now with a screwdriver button. Wow, okay. So it's like, on paper, yeah, I kind of would like to get an AM5 socket processor, which would allow me to use DDR5 RAM, and maybe a better graphics card wouldn't hurt. But also, I don't have money for any of that stuff, and like, honestly, my Steam backlog is so big right now, and there's so many older games that I can play, that like, I don't need that many modern games. There's a very small collection of more recent games that I would be interested in, mostly for reasons of being like, okay, how disappointed am I going to be? Like, I bought that Saints Row reboot last time it was on sale. I think it was on sale for like 80% off or something, all in. So it was decently cheap. I haven't played it yet, but I'm ready to see it be bad. And as much as I like have a lot of very strong negative feelings surrounding Clair Obscur, that's actually kind of what makes me want to play it. Well, other than the ones about the AI. Obviously, I don't want to experience anything that is AI generated, but my sort of vibe that I've gotten from Clair Obscur the whole time is just like, okay, this is just things that the genre has actually done for actual decades that all the honkies are just now catching up to because they were too busy being racist against Japanese media to actually care. By the way, anybody check on Adam Sessler lately to see if he's, like, still posting through it about some other random person? This is a joke because he's, like, still angrily raging at another random person on social media. And has been for actual weeks. Like, the dude... Somebody go get Adam Sessler his fucking pills, alright? Yeah, I kind of agree with that with regard to Clair Obscur, is that I think that's kind of where it would come down to, is because that's a very good question, Roundy. But in this case, I think the person that I was referring to was Chris Person, who was the one who I saw posting about the fact that Adam Sessler was still, like, you know, he's still having a Kanye-level meltdown over this guy, like, lightly criticizing him once. But I couldn't necessarily say about that. But I assume in this case, it's just like Kate is openly female on the internet is kind of what it comes down to. Oh, and distinctly makes mention of having a partner in her display name on Blue Sky. So you get all kind of men who are also like, oh, well, I could do better than, you know, somebody who, like, God, I don't even have the right description here, but you know exactly what I'm trying to look at. I would probably have gotten it at some point, too, if I was actually a big stink on the internet. But sometimes I'm actually thankful for the fact that I have no audience. If I became as popular as someone like Caleb Hart, I would have fucking Cobained myself by this point, all right? Okay, maybe not literally, but anyway. Yeah, I think that's a good reason for me to get canceled, is for saying it that way. But anyway, yeah, I kind of get the feeling with anything regarding Clair Obscur, anytime I see anything to do with any of the, like, thematics attached to it, it's just like, have any of you considered playing, like, I don't know, Phantasy Star 2? Or a Final Fantasy game? I also suspect that quite a few of them just don't have the patience for anything turn-based. So people are like, oh, it has a parry system. Hey, I played a game last year that has a parry system of a sort. It's called Super Mario RPG. It's probably better than that, actually. Legend of Dragoon has its own sort of, like, inputs like that. Shadow Hearts. Magna Carta, I would not suggest playing Magna Carta Tears of Blood. I would, however, suggest playing Legend of Dragoon. I would also suggest playing Shadow Hearts. I think I would suggest playing Shadow Hearts anyway. Parentheses. There's kind of some asterisks attached to that. He told you to get good at just, like, to a special level. Gamers these days wouldn't be able to take that shit, dude. Like, are you kidding me? Even all the people who... Like, I'm willing to bet you that any of the people who, like, spam get good LOL to anybody who can't handle a Souls-like would end up tripping over that, and they would have an epic meltdown over that. We're talking 3 Mile Island meltdown, baby. We're talking Chernobyl, motherfuckers. Anyway. It's a shame I'm wasting a phrase like, we're talking Chernobyl motherfuckers at a moment like this, but I digress. Yeah, there's that, exactly. That is very much the case. Anyway, I don't actually know how to get through this part, but I'm trying to just keep trying the same thing. I may actually have to go back to the menu screen, go into that shop, and buy a power. Ew, can you imagine? It feels like cheating. Yeah, there's like special powers you can use to do truck magic. Truck magic. I'm sorry, that is a very silly phrase. But that does also remind me another Hypnospace Outlaw thing where there was like one of the characters is a dude who was a musician in the 70s, like decently popular, and then he ended up later in his life, his career was airbrushing like fantasy stuff on the sides of vans. So now I'm just imagining like one of these semi-trucks, but somebody's painted a wizard on it. Things I would actually drive. The wizard truck. Actually, isn't that what Sorcerer was about? No, that's not what Sorcerer was about. You saw one of those in real life? Good. I'm very glad. Fuck, I think we actually have to put Sorcerer in the list of things to watch. Unfortunately, that's actually a good movie. So I don't know how we're gonna be able to put up with that, right? Because how are we supposed to watch a movie when we aren't gonna have like just time for jokes? Because otherwise we've just watched like the James Bond movies and Zardoz. Next comes the tear. Fuck. God, I'd have to remember all of them then. Actually, I think that in that case, it would just be like, actually, Spectre was pretty high up there. And then the Timothy Daltons and Live and Let Die was the Live and Let Die was the Roger Moore one that was really good. That was like actually a good movie. Cage. Yes. Exactly. Anyway, no, seriously, that van does in fact sound pretty awesome. Just in case I haven't said it yet. Aw, dang. Oh well. I'd say next time, but you'll never see it again. Just like a wizard, it will use teleportation magic or something to disappear. Just fades out. Well, I mean, Abra is part of Abracadabra Alakazam. That makes it a wizard, right? It's all right. If I keep mentioning Kadabra, Uri Geller will get mad. God, a couple of years ago too, he finally decided to like stop being such a fucking wet blanket about Kadabra. And he posted about how he was gonna like stop bullying Nintendo over the Kadabra cards. And he sort of phrased it like, oh, well, I'm letting them print Kadabra cards again. And it's like, the fuck do you mean you're letting that, you bitch? It's not like you own the fucking rights to Kadabra. You don't own the... You don't own the copyright to bending spoons, you schmuck. Wow, we actually got through that. Now, no sudden rocks, please. No sudden Geodudes. Well, that took a while. I'm sorry. Well, okay, sorry might be a strong word for it, but that did take a while. Oh, Jesus, what? The walls just close it at the end there. They're not even like rolling or anything. They're just flat rocks. The fuck? Why? That's so messed up. I can't believe this turned into that one climbing section in every Mega Man X game. Yeah, tell me I'm wrong about that one. Because I'm not. Actually, I might be in the literal sense, but there's definitely like a section of a lot of Mega Man X games where it's like, here's two walls that are closing in and you have to climb up one of them. Better make it snappy, boy, or you'll get squished like a tin can. Oh god, yeah, I see the rolling rocks in the background there. We're watching for rolling rocks just like it's Super Mario 64. I keep bringing up other games for some reason. It's because I'm dumb. I'm like your average internet reviewer where I just look at two things that are extremely vague and I say, oh, well, this previous game did it earlier. That must mean that this later game is ripping them off, even if there's no reason to believe that, right? Like, oh, this game has girls. Well, Phantasy Star had girls too. That's what I would say if I was going into, like, outright self-parody. Either that, or I would make, like, is the slot machine in Clover Pit transgender? Good one, Rowdy. And Tav, I have no idea. This is like... I'm trying to make a good comparison to like what kind of game would have something like this. And in the back of my head, I'm just like, Incredible Crisis? As I'm expecting like one person to be like, oh, is that a fucking Incredible Crisis joke? Oh my god, yes. This person has taste. The one person on the internet who's lighting it up for Incredible Crisis. I think I played a demo of Incredible Crisis when I was younger, and I had no goddamn idea what was going on. As well, I should not have, because honestly, it is Incredible Crisis, so like, what do you even say about that? I hope they do. I hope I get the Incredible Crisis person, because that would be really, really funny. Incredible Crisis also kind of in this category of games in the 90s that were being released on a lot of home consoles that are extremely Japanese in their approach. To such a point where I'm like, how the hell did this get localized in 1999 or whatever? I don't remember exactly when Incredible Crisis was localized in BT dubs, but you know, it sort of sits there alongside like Mystical Ninja starring Goemon. Figure you could just listen to third wave ska while watching Japanese reality shows and get the same experience. Yes. That does seem to be what the deal is with Incredible Crisis. Speaking of which, there was so I'm sitting here trying to piece together what the context was, because I don't remember, but it was like part of a thing on a game show, and it got a Japanese game show specifically, and it was released in America as a PS1 game called Irritating Stick, which is a very funny title by itself. Yes, Irritating Stick, that's what you have to deal with when you're a woman and you're going through your DMs on any social media, really. But it's like, so the concept of it as part of a game show thing is that it's like this rod that you would move through a barrier of it's not Wild Woody. Move through like a barrier of like electrical things, and you'd get shocked if you touched it. And your goal was to get it through this maze without getting electrocuted. And for some reason, they made a video game out of this where you just sort of like control a cursor through a maze, basically. Sometimes parts of it move, but it's also like, it's part of a Japanese game show, and I hate to be the like only in Japan kind of person, because all game shows are kind of weird. Ours are kind of weird in their own right too, but also like that I don't see what the audience is in the 90s, right? Like, except for some very specific weebs. Hey, Retro. And also very well before the term weeb existed. And yeah, we definitely ran through quite a retinue of jokes surrounding this feeling like American highway driving. I mean, at least on the highway, there aren't nearly so many like low logs that are like this. They're designed to kill people on top of the semis. I mean, I guess you could count the 11-foot-8 bridge, but that usually killed more of the trucks, to my knowledge. The 11-foot-8 bridge, which I believe has been, they raised it up by 8 inches because of, I guess, they were annoyed about all the trucks they were murdering. Where's the fun in that? Anyway. No, it probably was a smart idea, at least on paper. Yes, exactly. People still get overconfident and they still get their vehicle annihilated and just, like, peeled open like a can. So yeah, that irritating stick that I just mentioned, that kind of goes in the same category as, like, again, with stuff like Incredible Crisis and Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, as, like, I am shocked that this ever got localized and they didn't, like, completely peel all of the Japanese identity out of it, because 90s localization was not necessarily friendly about any of that. It often wasn't necessarily very good either, but I digress. Hooray, we got an achievement. Actually, hold up. I do kind of want to pop open Steam for a second, and it tells me how many worlds there are. Oh, there's 90 levels to this, apparently. Well, you better believe I won't be able to pull all of that off in one stream. But let's take a look at our abilities menu here. Oh, yeah, I think that double jump would help quite a bit. Now, we're allowed to have one ability and one movement ability and one utility ability at the same time. Not being a perfect invention, it slightly destabilizes the universe when used. Lovely. Portable truck. Oh, that's a little bit of a stretch. Back truck. Super truck. I assume that this is supposed to be like a play on Super Hot, so they only move when you move. But we can't afford that yet. Let me double check how to do this. Okay, yeah, left mouse button. I really hope they just let me double jump with the space bar. Yes, they do. Hooray, but rather embarrassingly, we still could not one-shot that. Yeah, I assume this is what it's like outside where you're at, like, today, right? Negative 100 or 20 million or so degrees. Millions of trucks. Also, these giant spinning wheels. Like, I assume these are an actual feature in your neck of the woods, too. The wheels. Like, surely, right? Has to be. Anything else would be ridiculous. Oh, what? I deserved to fail that. Most vehicles have... Well... I said something ridiculous, and you managed to say something even more ridiculous than that to me, which, you know what? Perhaps that's what I get for trying to out Pizza the Hut on this one, you know? This music is really something, yeah. We are in some very silly territory here. I mean, granted, like, what do you expect with this game, right? Oh god, what the fuck is this thing? I wasn't even paying attention to what the deal is with these double wheels now. Oh my god. Oh boy. Oh shit. Prototype for somebody's ultimate weapon for Astrologian. Oh, this is going to be a really frustrating landing to pull off. I always have way more momentum than I think I do. Oh, hell. I did it! Hooray! Now I gotta do it again. I'll fucking do it again! And I fucking did it again! Wow! Alright! I can't believe I actually fucking did it again! I really hope there's some more trucks coming. Otherwise, this is going to be a bit of a problem. Well, I was allowed to keep running on that, apparently, so... This is completely deranged. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Why is it going on, for that matter? This just feels like the most video game a video game has ever been. And I mean that in the most positive manner possible, because, oh my god, this is funny as shit. I don't know if it's a joke that I'll laugh about this much for 3 hours, but, like, still. This is incredible. And also incredibly stupid, but you figured that out already on your own. Wow. When the front part of the truck, the, like, I guess that's the tractor unit, starts bending up, The shape kind of reminds me, I guess because it doesn't have like a lot of pipes or anything, it makes me think of like an AT-AT walker a little bit, but with wheels on it for some reason. Or like a really blocky little turtle. Man walks into a bookstore and he goes, "I'm looking for a book on turtles." The clerk says, "Hardback?" And the man says, "Yes, with tiny little heads." I probably screwed that up, but I don't care. I got the response I was looking for anyway, so... Just know, every time I die, it's because I deserve it. Put that one on your gravestone. Well, unfortunately, I stole it from somewhere, so, like, I guess they could just etch the image that I stole it from into my gravestone. My gravestone, which is probably just going to be like a pebble on the side of the road, because... Listen, I can't afford to be buried anywhere nice. That'll never happen. Unfortunately, I think it would be kind of fucked up if I were to say to my family to, like, have my body stripped down to the bone and, like, use some sort of preservation or something if necessary, and just pose me like I'm doing a happy little jig. We would never get visitors ever again. It's okay. They'd be okay with that, too. I think I once said something about burying me in the backyard. And, yeah, apparently that's, like, really not allowed. And I mean, it's not like, you know, in the past, they did used to display, people used to display their dead relatives in their living room and stuff. And then for some reason, a bunch of fucking weirdos started to decide that it was, like, not acceptable for various reasons to do that. I think it's mostly because a lot of those people started to just, like, get upset thinking about their own mortality. Because that's what a lot of everything comes down to, is rich people obsessed with the fact that they're going to die someday and absolutely hating that. Because when you already control the entire world, I guess the next step up is to just become God, right? Anyway, the physics finally cooperated with me. I'm assuming I'm literally the only person on the Just Friends list. No, there's someone else there. Wow, okay. Well, too bad, nerd. You weren't actually that much higher than me. Rest and rip. Ow. Something must be kicking up all the dust in here. It means I should probably vacuum sometime soon. Bye, level. I'm just waiting for it to kick me out here. It actually took that long for it to happen. Wow. Actually, I kind of wonder what all the dust in here would be, right? Maybe it's weed smoke from the person who spends most of her time out in the next room over. And then I'll have to clean up all of my, like, stuffed things, too. I'll have to, like... shove the, like, 3 or 4 plushies that I own. Actually, I think it's 4. Into a washing machine or something. Or wash them in a sink. Unfortunately, none of them are like any of the various bird plushes that have existed since Bird has been doing that YouTube channel and has had merch. Those might be easier to explain sometimes than anything that's like, oh yes, here's someone from a webcomic that I only half liked. But mostly I just wanted it as something to display in videos because it stuck out a lot. Ah! Yeah, see, each of these segments keeps getting, like, tighter time restrictions here. God, I almost got there in the right time, but only almost. But I gotta start doing this fast because the trucks are going real early. You might be saying, why not jump off the other side? And you're right, but I'm not a good planner, so... Oops. Do people in my parents' generation even know what webcomics are? I mean, probably some of them, but I'm talking about like the most normal of them. People who refer to different Pokemon as being Pikachus in an unironic manner. This momentum management is getting pretty tough. Ah. Damn it, I had it for a second there. Well, yeah, I was going the other way because I wanted to try to catch some of the trucks early because, as you can see, it does get a little bit tight in that area. And look at how early the next lines of trucks are coming. Listen, there was a strategy for this, for why I was doing this, I swear. I'm not that incompetent most of the time. Except for all the time. But I digress. Yeah, that part's pretty good too. I feel like the only funnier horn possibility is the pee from Borderlands for the basic car. Oh god, do I have to play that again someday? And by again, I mean that it would be the first time I play it on stream. But again, meaning that I'd be playing it again in my life. Instead of just, like, getting bloody revenge on Randy Pitchford. Yeah, we do, technically, I guess. I feel like I should look up how to cheat so that way we can actually make Cromerax, like, not suck. Because there's something like, I think if you host the game at a low level, he will tie to like the host level, but only a couple higher. So that way one of us can be completely useless and the other can be significantly more powerful, but also kind of useless because like he's still really, really beefy, even at low levels. Either that or I got a multi-box or something. I mean, it's either that or we get, like, friends who are good at video games. I don't know. Do I want friends who are good at Borderlands? I don't think I like that concept. Oops. Shit, I was so close there. I just got too much forward momentum at the very end. Hold up, I have an idea, I think. Okay, so first of all, that does actually have the inability for you to clip through it, but second of all, I think it's the other side where the trucks come from here, so... Yeah, I have to do this the actual way, unfortunately. I have to play this correctly. And you better believe there are very few things that break my heart quite as much as that. When I thought I had a trick, and the game is like, well, unfortunately, I don't even find that funny. I just have to go, well, fine. Oops. This music is completely ridiculous. I just want to put that forward. Because it is. I ruined it. No. I just want to at least land on there again. Eesh. Oops. physics in this are really, really over the top. Finally, I got a good roll there. But fuck you, man! That guy just kicked down the fucking brakes, didn't he? Just stopped before I could actually land on him. Seriously? He might have hit something in the road because these guys don't have brakes, but it certainly felt like I was getting specifically targeted there. Like, the game was saying, nope, you don't get to win this one. You gotta be stuck here for another several minutes. Which, I mean, that's just mean. Come on, the physics are doing enough of that work for me. Or for you, or for somebody. Shit. Yeah, this one's really, really rough. Well, I guess the other option is, again, go back and get another power, but that's kind of like, hey, do you want to go grind the previous stages? And the answer is no. Okay, that time I just came down too early. And that time I slid off of the thing that I'd already landed on. Okay, that was weird. I was too busy being, like, confused there to actually take advantage of that. I hate it when that happens, by the way, when you just land on something and then the game is just kind of like, yeah, no, by the way, you lose your grip suddenly. Like, I understand that it's because this is one of those games, it's a little bit like over-the-top physics, you know, the sort of thing that ends up with various, it's kind of the same template that brought about a lot of the simulator games of yore. of like the Surgeon Simulator kind of stuff and Goat Simulator and various other, you know, ragdoll physics games. Where really that was the whole point, as opposed to something like The Bouncer where it was just a fun little extra that made the game really funny. Other than The Bouncer's, well, everything. Other than the fact that whoever made The Bouncer was like, yes, clearly I have played Metal Gear Solid a little too much, and I want to recreate that, but didn't really have an idea how to do it. Not Nomura. Tetsuya Nomura provided character designs for The Bouncer, but it wasn't like Kingdom Hearts level of involvement from him. So before anyone wants to blame Nomura, it's not him that time. Well, like I was saying, partially. Like I said, it's not a Nomura joint to the extent of, like, The World Ends With You, or Kingdom Hearts, or, what was the Final Fantasy that was basically his? I think it was the early version of FF15. Which he then spent at least part of Kingdom Hearts 3 mauling about the fact that it got changed. And some of you will probably look at me saying that and be like, what? And yeah, that's pretty much what the in-universe video game in the Toy Story world, Virum Rex, was basically. It is a lot of references to the game that eventually became Final Fantasy 15. That I think was originally called Final Fantasy Versus 13. Yeah, so there's a lot of backstory to that. Anyway, we finally beat this level. Holy shit. It was the Spirits Within, but more canon. I do not recall a goddamn thing about the Spirits Within. So I'm going to say yes. It's more canon than well, certainly it's more canon than that other video thing they made that was basically a tech demo. That I cannot remember what it was called offhand. But it had some girl in it called Agni. Not to be confused with Aki, whose name just sounds similar. For some reason, they decided to do that. So that was a choice there. It was a PS3 tech demo of some kind. I think it was PS3. Not Kingsglaive, although yes, that Kingsglaive was the name of the FF15 film that existed for some reason. Yes, I do. For, I think it was Brave... It was either for, like, Mobius or for Brave Exvius. I think it was Mobius, actually, come to think of it, because I'm pretty sure Brave Exvius is a different one. Brave Exvius is, like, more of a... It's got more of a pixely aesthetic to it. And then Mobius was the one that was kind of, like, card gamey. Anyway, if y'all feel like giving me just a second here, I will look up what the hell I'm talking about here, because I'm sure I can find it somewhere. Okay, yes, the thing I was looking for was called Agni's Philosophy. And it was a PS4 tech demo, not whatever the fuck I said, which was PS3. Sorry, I'm stupid and I'm an idiot. So, yeah. But yeah, I guess 15 was a PS4 game, wasn't it? Yeah, but I think that was a Tetsuya Nomura thing. But I could be wrong. But to an extent that was like, you know, basically what I'm saying here is that, yeah, Tetsuya Nomura did work on the bouncer, and his name is in the credits. But his name is also in the credits on Chrono Trigger, and we don't consider that to be a Tetsuya Nomura game, probably because he didn't design characters for it. But yeah, the bouncer is kind of like in the middle, right? Oh yeah, this is where the game is going to live up to its name, because this is like something I would design and just be like, well, good enough, ship it. Because I think after a point, like, you're already dealing with some physics that are of questionable predictability. This sort of redefines the idea of being questionably predictable. This is... I feel I would call this not actual level design, you know? Well, we completed that well before we hit the exit sign there, so okay. Thank you very much, generous hitboxes. So yeah, I have not played Brave Exvius, but I'm kind of in this position right now with regard to mobile gaming that I'm like, I already played one. That's probably like two too many. And also, FFBE is so old that getting into it now seems like not necessarily the cleverest of ideas. See, mobile games have this problem where if you don't get in on them, I won't say if you don't get in on them on the ground floor. That's not completely true. But if you get in on them too late, then you start running into some problems, basically. Especially because it means that when you get, like, new content coming out, you won't be ready for any of it, and some things will just be so power crept, like... I would certainly imagine that anybody who's getting into Grand Blue Fantasy right now, for example, would have some problems doing certain content because nobody would be interested because of all the power creep that's happened that kind of makes certain raids completely valueless. Which is also why they had to introduce some more new player onboarding stuff that gives you the rewards for a lot of that. Because otherwise, you're just not going to find people who want to do the fucking early game shit anymore. It doesn't worth anything. And yes, I know I said that as it doesn't worth anything. And I have nothing more to say about that. I think that level of bad grammar is probably about what this sort of thing deserves. But, like, some things are so heavily power crept, and then there's also the matter of newer units in a lot of those games really requiring you to get to the game, you know, the depths of the game to actually be able to unlock any of the shit to do with them. So if for some reason you were going to get into any of these games for any reason other than just to collect the JPEGs, like, for example, I have it on decent authority from a friend that apparently Star Rail is going to be getting a new version of The Only Character That Matters very soon. And by very soon, I mean in, like, probably about a year's worth of updates, but I digress. And this might prove to be untrue, but this is a leak that I've been told about. Because I was never precious about that shit to begin with, and now that I don't play, I'm doubly so. But if you decide to get into this game for this character, well, now you've got to go through multiple years of story in order to actually get to a point where you can do anything with the character. Plus, there's all the matter of, like, accumulating rolls and shit to be able to actually pick them up, unless you're willing to let yourself get ripped off to feed a corporation that came up with a motion JPEG for you to look at. Motion JPEG is incorrect, pardon me. It's a PNG, and even if it's in motion, it wouldn't be a motion JPEG would not be the correct. That's an MPEG. That's a video file. That's not an animated image. I mean, it is in some sense, but not in the way that I'm going for here. Anyway, setting all of that aside, it is just kind of like, yeah, imagine the horse shit that you have to go through for something like that. And listen, shit was bad when I started playing that game. For a start, I didn't accumulate enough rolls to get the character that I joined for at the time. And by the time she came back, she was unusable. What was the point? But yeah, basically, you know, in addition to all the other ways that mobile games are bad, they have sort of a lifespan that they should not overextend. Otherwise, even any of the like good parts of it, i.e. the game itself, kind of falls apart. Alternately, this is why I think that on paper, Magic's rotating format idea is actually kind of good. Like, yes, it's openly capitalistic, but so are all trading card games. Unfortunately, they're also kind of fucking that up lately now, too, because not only are standard sets getting more and more overpowered at this point due to them really trying to push people to use the cards and expanding the format and increasing the number of releases doesn't help either, but you also now have a large amount of things that, exist in Magic specifically to print cards straight into the Eternal formats. Which means that they can still do power creep that way because obviously they want to sell Modern Horizons, right? So hey, let's just print Ragavan, why not? And then let's print something a couple of years later that's like, hey, yeah, you know that Ragavan thing that you were all spending $80 over? Well, guess what? Hey, do you guys remember Dockside Extortionist? Well, it's banned in Commander, but I digress. And then there was that one time they just printed fucking Black Lotus into Commander, but I mean, technically it was called something else. I believe it was called Jeweled Lotus was the card. And oh, technically it had a restriction. Yeah, I guess, in theory. And you just played around the restriction. It's like Lion's Eye Diamond. Except I think Lion's Eye Diamond would be harder to use in Commander. Which is wild, because you'd actually be able to do more with it. But I digress. A Mortal Kombat 4 stage, but incompetent. Well, depending on which version of MK4 you're looking at, competency may not necessarily be completely on the cards. I think it was Mortal Kombat Gold that's the one that's infamous for being a little bit broken. On the other hand, some of the versions of some of the later editions of MK3 did not go over so well on the old 16-bit consoles. In fact, I want to say that there's some pretty severe problems with the SNES version of UMK3. I mean, the MK3 era has other problems too, like balance and not necessarily being very well populated with that. If you went to the arcade and the other guy was playing Striker on the other end of the machine, well, rest in peace. You're fun for however long you decide to play that for. Yeah, I mean, the Game Boy version of MK4 is kind of like... Well, let's be honest here. I'm not sure that was such a good idea in general. Ah, yes, now we've got laser beams to avoid here. Trucks, however, are immune to lasers. I don't know if you knew that, folks, but... Just in case you didn't, trucks are immune to laser beams. As I say, I see everyone's listing off to the side here. And not quite. I'm assuming those gates will kill me if I don't get through them in time. Because it will clearly just put up a laser barrier. Much like these ones, yeah. Yeah, I don't remember if Legacy Collection did anything to MK Gold. I still need a copy of Legacy Collection. I'll pick that up eventually. I swear. As I look over the large pile of games that I'm still interested in, and the couple of CDs and stuff too. So next time I get a pile of money, well, maybe not. Maybe it'll be something else. Is it? I mean, perhaps. There's no train yet, though. Where's my train boss? Come on. God, I haven't played Star Fox in a while, either. Last time I played Star Fox was the 3DS version. I wasn't very... I found the gyroscope controls on that to be a little bit frustrating. And I ended up selling my copy back, which ultimately, not such a good idea. I'm no longer a big fan of, like, reselling any of my old games. You can probably guess. By all the time, I'm like, well, that was a mistake. Even the stuff I don't 100% like. I mean, at least part of it, too, is, like, anytime I look at used game prices, I regret very seriously selling my Gen 5 Pokemon games, because every once in a while, I'll go look at those on eBay for, like, what it costs for a legit copy, and it's like, oh, hey, do you want to pay literally 3 to 5 times more than what you spent for it? And it's just like, well, I guess I'm going to emulate forever. And I'm a person who actually really likes using original hardware where possible for things. So that kind of sucks. I mean, there's probably a lot of other things you can say about, oh dear God, this is going to be hard to, like, hash out mentally when I can go, well, okay, less than I thought, but still. Just because the visual effect from having all of these lined up is very disorienting. Anyway, I hate the price of retro games on any sort of reselling nowadays. It's awful. But of course, I mean, it's people taking advantage of other people's nostalgia. What do you expect? There's a lot of people who are, like, very easy marks for that kind of thing. And a shocking amount of people willing to spend those prices. Yeah. Everybody buy Air Neos now because they'll never reprint that. Sadly, I don't think I have any Yu-Gi-Oh stuff that's, like, worth anything. Or really for many trading card games, period. I have some older stuff for a couple of games that are not really widely played that might be of some interest. I could look around, but also, I mean, to be fair, reselling that shit's kind of a pain. The main thing that I'm thinking about, like, reselling out of any, like, old gaming stuff that I have, other than possibly some cards, would most likely be that PC 9821 that I have. Which it's the last model of the PC 98 series that was ever produced in Japan. That I bought that to use for a video well before I nuked my YouTube channel originally. And it ended up being kind of a pain in the ass to actually do anything with it. A big part of this is the fact that, well, I just kind of don't know where to go with any of that. And thankfully, they did replace the hard drive with an adapter that uses a flash memory card. So at least I don't have to worry about a hard drive being dead. But on the other hand, I wouldn't really know where to get the right stuff to be able to actually operate that with period software and everything. But unfortunately, yeah, it's just kind of a pain in the ass. Plus, I never really got around to finding a mouse for it. Also, I have to admit that now I'm a little bit worried about running it because it's a Japanese computer off of US electricity without any sort of, like, step-down power converter. Because, yeah, Japanese electricity is like 100 volts, which is not that much lower than US power. And I've heard from some people that generally you don't need to worry about that too much unless it's something that has a heating element in it, like a hairdryer or something. But I'm still kind of afraid of possibly killing it. So I'm going to be honest with you, that makes the whole ordeal seem a little bit burdensome, but you know, again, it would be nice to trade that in and spend that funding on something else that I would use for a little bit more than just like, hey, here's this old computer that I can use as a prop to discuss a video game series that started on this old pre-Windows computer series. If you know what game series it is that I'm talking about in this case, well, you probably do, because it's like the only thing that most Westerners know off of that type of hardware. But I digress. Yeah, of course you do. Yeah, because those games started out on PC 98 type computers as like an indie thing, which it's an interesting choice too, because that I don't think did like the smoothest of graphics most of the time. So running that on, you know, running a shmup on that type of computer is a little bit of an unusual choice. But yeah, no, I bought this for a video that I was going to do as like part of a series retrospective. Again, this is before I blew up my entire YouTube channel because I didn't like how I was running it. And I didn't want to have things that showed my face on them on the internet at that point. Well, that more became a bit of an ancillary thing, but I'm glad I never did anything after I revived it where I showed my face, because, yeah, hey, world's a little bit dangerous out there for people like me nowadays. And people like, well, people like, honestly, the vast majority of the population when you come down to it in various ways. But, yeah. So that, unfortunately, is practically not going to be a thing that I do anything with. I managed to get a keyboard for it, too, which was kind of expensive. Like, I think it was like $70 for a keyboard for it. And that, I believe, was on the lower end of things. On the other hand, I've seen some quite expensive keyboards for modern computers, but this is certainly no, like, you know, mechanical keyboard for gamers or anything. This is just the generic default keyboard that one of those would have come with at the time. A mouse for it is apparently, like, stupidly expensive, but there are some devices that are compatible with it anyway that like aren't the original mouse. But again, I haven't really bothered to find any of those. So yeah, perhaps someday if I can figure out a good way to sell that, I will attempt to sell it, and you know, then you'll notice me not actually do anything different with the stream. Like maybe I'll get a different audio desk for my microphone or something. Or, like, maybe a couple of games or something. And that'd be as much as would get done for the stream off of that. You'd think I should save that for something a little bit more serious, but, I mean, you look over at how much it costs for rent nowadays, and it's not like I'm going to be able to move out with that, right? And then I'd have to have, like, a real job and shit, and that'd be horrible. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, I mean, something has to keep this game long. Right? And it's not just 90 levels that are doing it. It has to also be level designs that look like this, that are just kind of like, you look over it and it's like, okay, either this has been tested to within an inch of its life, or they literally just threw a bunch of random shit around and didn't test it. It's up to you to decide which one is the case. And I didn't see any of the... I don't remember to move the camera, I guess. Yes, I know that Portal did start to do that at some point, but I don't know if they had any sort of regulation of it has to be completable. But I would assume that that is also the case. Mario Maker levels are very much in the sort of category where I think a lot of just straight up impossible shit makes its way into Mario Maker levels. Like, technically you can finish them because they have a goal marker or something, but that's a very large technically. Again, though, I'm no expert, and a lot of them could probably be solved through, like, actually being good at the games, which I'm not. Like, if I still look at 7.4 in SMB3 and I want a KMS, then that might mean that I'm not good at those games. For those of you who don't remember, 7.4 is the auto-scrolling underwater level with all the electric jellyfish that kill you instantly. And cannot be destroyed because they're technically blocks. Oops. I jumped into that because I thought I was going to have to jump over it. I haven't really finished any sort of, like, custom stuff for any games in a very long time. I should try to change that at some point. But I also get, like, a certain type of self-conscious about any time I do anything. It'll be like, oh, this is too easy, but obviously, at least part of that is because I know how to beat it because I made it. So perhaps in that regard, it should be rather easy. At least to me. If I can't beat it after I put it together, that might be a bit of a problem. Shit. Yeah, there's not enough space to do a good sideways dodge there. I might have to be further ahead at that point. Ah, hell. Too high of a jump. But I think this is a case where there's, like, only so many jump statistics you can get there. It's like platforming in FF14 where there's only 2 jumps. Which is something I also said to someone recently because of what the platforming was like in Abiotic Factor. Although that game has much bigger issues than its platforming, I'll tell you that much. Every time I think about 14, after at least some period of time of thinking about it, I start to like have war flashbacks to the fucking Shroud map in Leap of Faith. I almost called it Gridania, which is partially true, but is not really is too specific, honestly. But yeah, that one sucks. It's just kind of designed like shit. It's not great. It's very like there's a couple of parts of it that I think are just too long too, on top of everything else. Oh, I don't really mind the Thanalin one too much. The Lenosha one is also alright, but there's some parts that still, like, kind of fuck me up. I'm bad. But, every once in a while, I think about resubbing to FF14 just to, like, do some fashion-y shit. But then I kind of realized, oh yeah, I wasn't really having a whole lot of fun with the regular gameplay parts when I quit. And also, there's the part where it makes my computer kind of catch on fire a little bit. Graphics card, anyway. Because they're like, oh, we gotta update the graphics, and meanwhile, I'm just here like, it looked fine before. Look, I've seen all these people with their shitty reshade presets. You don't have to bow to them. They're just gonna use mods for it anyway. Oh, I'm sure it bakes the fuck out of everything else, but the main thing that I have, like, a temperature sensor readout for on my computer easily is GPU. So oh, maybe they changed that. Maybe they just readjusted to something else. So yeah. But yeah, I was starting to find a lot of, like, level 100 dungeons and stuff to get, like, some of the fights were getting a little bit tedious. The thing at the end of the dungeon with the Zagnol in it was kind of this level where I was just like, ugh. Anyway. With the I mean, I guess at least, like, Valia Pira was a somewhat interesting fight at times. Either way, maybe I'll reconsider at some point and pick it back up. It does have Doom Train in the FF9 X-Pack. For some reason. Maybe nobody else at Square Enix can name another FF9 boss either. Like, they already had Beatrix, except she's a robot. I'm kind of curious as to what they'll do for the next expansion pack, too, because... I mean, I just sort of am. Are they finally going to break out the FF7 expansion, or are we still a couple off from that? Do we get the proper FF6 expansion, as opposed to just, like, several references? Because for example, the main Magitech that you see, the Magitech Walker from Realm Reborn, that is an FF6 reference. But I don't think we've had and we've had plenty of things that reference FF6, but I don't think we've had like a full story version of it. Like, we had the idea of the Warring Triad, but while I haven't played FF6 in a while, for example, I don't exactly think that, like, Sephiroth was one of those bosses. Holy shit, that doesn't count as us getting kicked out of the thing. Guja transformation for Calyx, I could see it. Because that is kind of the big thing that's been missing out of the overt FF9 references in the X-Pack. I mean, Sphene is basically both Garnet and Garland, so... Gargar Binks. Wait, no, that... Sorry. Kind of sorry. But yeah, I mean, obviously just going back to Eorzea would be the preferred choice for an upcoming expansion pack. But I suppose I wouldn't hold my breath on that for some reason. You know, come to think of it, isn't the Final Fantasy that got the largest proportion of overt references first FF3 in 14? Because of the first Alliance cycle? That's really strange, isn't it? Because I feel like FF3 is one of, like, the big love it or hate it games in the series. You know, it's certainly not on the level of popularity of, like, FF4. Which, again, I'm still befuddled by the absolute lack of any, like, specific tie-in product in the Final Fantasy MTG crossover with FF4. I know it's a bit of a weird swerve in terms of saying that, but, like, really, you've got the... I'm trying to think if any other games in the series... Well, 2 and 3, and 5, of course. 5 never gets anything. Like, almost literally never gets anything, because They don't want to have to try to negotiate with Ferris. Which is kind of weird that I'm saying 5 never gets anything. 5 has gotten a huge amount of callbacks in 14. Like, we straight up have Crow Baldesian in like a major party position. And I'm pretty sure Crow Baldesian was in fact her full name in FF5. So you know, not even like any sort of like, oh, haha, look, it's the same first name as a character you recognize. No, it's basically just not the exact character, obviously, because she wasn't a Lalafell in FF5, but she was a child, so, you know, there's a joke here about the fan base, but I won't make it this time. But yeah. 6 obviously got Commander decks. 7 got, like, shitloads of garbage. 8 got one of those big card spreads, and so did 9. So did 1, for that matter. 10 got a commander. 11, I don't think got anything major, nor did 12. 13 got... I think 13 got, like, a pretty good amount of cards. And then 14, obviously, and for some reason 15. So, yeah, a couple of them, but a lot of them are not the ones that I'd be like, oh, yeah, these are kind of considered extremely popular or, like, core games in the franchise. Like, the fandom at large would probably not excoriate you too severely for skipping 12. Except for the hardcore 12 fans, but, well, there's like 2 of those. And everyone else is lying because they just want to fuck the rabbit girl. Or Balthier. Or both of them. Hi! Anyway. Yeah. So, I would kind of like for 14 to go back to making a more original story with 8.x when they finally released the new X pack, but I think I'm in a position of not exactly holding my breath because we've had so many things that are just like so heavily tied into other games lately. Like, again, so much of Dawn Trail was just FF9. And so much of Endwalker was just FF4. Which is weird because I think there was quite a lot in Endwalker that would have stood fine on its own as an original story. If they wanted to actually delve into, you know, making Hermes sympathetic and trying to actually, you know, counterbalance that properly. Yeah, exactly. Like, most of the other Final Fantasy games aren't like this. There are plenty of references, shared names throughout previous games, you know, shared classes, Moogles, but also make a new story, please. Which is amazing because they have quite a lot of, well, they have had quite a lot of elements. But I wonder if maybe they're just having, like, issues in truly getting out of the shadow of the more beloved parts of 14's original story. Which is a nice way of saying, I wonder if they're having trouble getting out of the shadow of Emmet Selk. Because Like, yeah, he was a good and interesting villain, which is why they've had to always do the sympathetic villain who, you know, has a lot of, you know, in a very serious manner. Obviously, you cannot look over at Emmett Selk, who has killed so many people that we cannot conceive of it, and go, yeah, okay, that's understandable just because your friends died and because you're a racist loon. Obviously not. Like, no, that's not possible in a serious way. But he's interesting. Oh, fuck you. Not a loon, he's a shoebill. That's a good one. But yes, they also cannot get out from under the shadow of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn either, which I might have used the wrong name because I've been out of it for a while. But yeah, that much is true as well. But because they can't quite get to any sort of like doing anything else. They sort of implied that the next expansion would be about new characters. In fact, on some level, they implied much earlier that all of the post 6.0 would be about new characters because of the Scions breaking up, and it would be like, oh, well, we'll see them occasionally. And then that is very pointedly not what happened. And listen, do I like the gay elf and his tiny twink tank? I mean, sure, but somebody will be like, Thancred's not a twink, but he is tiny, so. You know, do I like these characters? Yes. Yeah, close enough. Do I like Y'shtola? Not nearly as much as some of the people on social media, but you know, she's all right. I've seen worse. I've seen worse cat girls. I've seen worse goths. I've seen worse girl black mages. But they didn't really go like full-throated in giving us a whole new set of characters. Like, they had the guy who always ended up being tank for me when I did trusts. And by trusts, I mean duty support, because I'd like to do those solo first if I can. The dragon, whose name I cannot remember off the top of my head, and I don't want to get it wrong. And then they had Wook Lamont. So they had like 2 new party members, and it's just like, well, no, we're just going to go back to the Scions again. Except this time we're going to look at Kryl, who is supposedly one that we've dealt with less, which I actually, if I recall correctly, that's not really the case. But then we get Catboy, we get all the rest of the ones that are also just the ones that we see the most of them. Varshan, yes, there we go. Yeah, like, Zero existed for like 2 minutes. It's like someone at the writer's room upstairs suddenly went, oh shit, we made a character who was a little bit too GNC, so now we've gotta like make them disappear. Oh, shit, right. I didn't even think about that. Because I think in the back of my head, I'm just always like, yeah, Estinian is kind of always there. In this, some sense of it. But, yeah, no, they're kind of dropping the ball on a lot of things story-wise, and... like, the main reason why I say, for example, that they haven't been able to get over the fact that Emmet was such a big deal is that, first of all, they've had to continue to do this, like, rather half-assed, sympathetic villain sort of thing, and they have managed to do it worse than Emmet, which is kind of weird, because, as I've said before, Emmet's greater characteristic is that it's interesting as opposed to something that you can truly sympathize with in a serious way, because, like, yeah, we've already been over that. But then they also were like, well, we're going to go and look at the ancients. And I don't think that would have happened if Emmet hadn't been, like, properly popular. I mean, a lot of the other Ashians have been popular in their own right, but I don't think on the same level. Like, how many people are like, yeah, I want to hear about what the deal was with Nabriales, right? And parentheses, I don't even remember if that's explored in that sort of area, but I could be wrong. And mostly I admit that I'm just being a little bit mean about that, but like sure, La Habrea would have gotten some interest, but you know, everybody sort of looked over at Emmet and sort of realized, hey, yeah, this weird unwashed rat man, this puppy that you dug out of a dumpster in the rain, that's a character archetype that people like. And then I think the writing team kind of missed that part a little bit. Instead of, you know, looking over the possum, they just sort of went. And it's not that Hermes is a bad character. Obviously, I actually really like Hermes, and I think Hermes kind of got screwed over in some regards too. But I think that a large part of that sort of comes from the writing team maybe being a little bit sideswept by the fact that, you know, that Emmet got so popular. And so the writing team was like, okay, let's explore where he got his gutter racism from. As opposed to exploring why he, you know, as opposed to exploring why he looked like some lint that you found in the back of your suitcase when you unpacked it after a long trip. So basically what I'm saying is I want them to... Well, you can see I respect him. Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good character. I think he's really interesting. I like him a lot. I just think that it's, you know, I just also think that he's a piece of shit by any, you know, sentient being standards. And I would have given him an even bigger swirly at the end of Shadowbringers if they would have let me. Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it fits for the fact that we're in this cartoon-ass setting here, where it's just like this bridge with a million hammers. Anyway, I would like for them to just have an original story that has a character that is a character, has a main villain that is not trying to, on any level, sort of ape any aspect of what they were doing with Emmet Selk, because that's sort of a lightning in a bottle kind of thing, I think. Or at least it sure feels like it. On the one hand, I kind of want to be like, you know, if you've got to ape some of the older FF games, like, you're already doing FF9. Kucha is right there and would be perfect for that sort of thing, where his whole thing is that he doesn't want to die, and that he's deeply afraid of that. And then I kind of realized, oh wait, that's sort of Emmet in itself. See, Retro, one of the difficult things about looking at Fandaniel is that, like, Fandaniel's problem is that he used to be Hermes. And Hermes' whole thing is that being the guy who has to kill all the projects that have been slated to end early has been doing a number on him mentally. And then getting the information back that he got back from Mateon when he was in a really frail mental position is what caused him to kind of turn into, like, a fatalistic, well, if the entire world is going to end anyway, then we may as well speed it up so people don't have to suffer as much sort of person. And then he just kind of became more and more psychotic as he went, which... So, on some level, I don't know that Fandaniel really works as the irredeemable villain archetype. But yeah, I suppose that it is quite difficult on a lot of levels, but... You know, that's why I'm not a professional writer, and I'm, you know... That's why Square Enix hasn't called me back when I said, hey, I can write a new expansion pack for you. I think they got mad at me when I said that, like, just make Chrono Cross but good. And that's why they're not returning my emails. I'm gonna have to start, like, standing outside their HQ with a gun and a book of poems like John Hinckley. I don't think that's what John Hinckley did, sorry. Let me not misrepresent John Hinckley. I apologize. Oh, fuck my life. They didn't want to put Nomura out of a job. I mean, I could write horse shit that is on that sort of level, but, is Chrono Cross really that bad? Chrono Cross is, it starts out all right, but it does kind of reach a few points of being absolute nonsense. And I know that this is sort of a plague on a lot of time travel stories, but and I think that there's a lot that specifically rides on Chrono Cross for being a sequel to Chrono Trigger, and it having a problem of not answering a lot of questions that it tees up. And for people who would look at it and be like, well, this just kind of hinders a game that already exists. If it was a standalone product, I think it would probably be fine. Or if it was sort of like how they always did with Final Fantasy games or or Seiken Densetsu and stuff like that, where it's like, this is a tie-in. It has some very clear, similar elements. Like how pretty much every Square Enix game had... Square Enix, what the hell am I talking about? Like pretty much how every Squaresoft game in the 90s had Moogles. Except for like Secret of Evermore, but that has its own reason for that. It suffers from being a sequel to something else, kind of. More than anything. Stream Chrono Cross. Tav, I actually did stream Chrono Cross a couple of years ago. Back when the PC port came out. Back when Radical Dreamers Edition was released. I streamed that back when it was having its performance problems. So on top of everything else, I got to experience the worst version of it. No, I streamed Chrono Trigger as well. I streamed the DS version of Chrono Trigger because, quote-unquote, it had the most content, although quite a lot of that content is like... that added content is bad. But I digress. Anyway, I could probably do it. I could do a better Chrono Trigger sequel than Chrono Cross. Well, I could make Chrono Cross better, I guess. I don't know. But mostly by actually answering some of the questions that it lays out, but I digress. Once again, Square Enix hasn't returned any of my faxes yet. So I'm going to have to just, like... I'm going to have to call them up on that number that I've been faxing to them and be like, hey, this is a fax machine, right? Not a phone. Did you guys get rid of the fax machine since the 90s? Those are still the cutting edge of technology. What the fuck is wrong with you people? But yeah, Nomura did design a character for FF14, and she looks like the exact average of all Tetsuya Nomura girls. So that's kind of impressive in a certain way, but also like... I don't know. I think sometimes Tetsuya Nomura did, at a few moments in his career as a character designer, have a little bit of juice. And then he started designing Kingdom Hearts, and, like, things started to go a little bit downhill from there. You remember when he gave Waka that god-awful haircut? And whatever was up with Waka's, like, weird shoulder piece thing that looked like it should have... Like, he had just a holder for a thing attached to his shoulder. Like, what, is that where he carries his blitzball when he needs both hands? That way he can, like, strangle heretics or something. Like he's Homer Simpson and they're... Wait. I was gonna say, was he voiced by... No, I'm thinking of the wrong voice actor. He was voiced by John DiMaggio, I think. This is level... This is level 510. So, we're near the end of World 5. which is where I'm gonna cut it off because obviously, like, how much more would I actually be able to accomplish in a single stream of this? The answer is not very much. Shit! No! The physics screwed that up. Ah! No. Yeah, it is 90 levels, as I said. Plus a couple of, like, extra campaigns. Which, honestly, for what I think I can fairly call a blatant shitpost game, is kind of a lot. On the other hand, it's a kind of fun blatant shitpost game. Fuck. You gotta approach this sort of thing a little bit differently than you would from, like, something that I will rudely call a serious game, but yeah, there is kind of a lot to it. I wonder if there's a death tracker for any of these levels, because I would love to know for a couple of these that are, like, really, really nasty. Fuck. God, the momentum when you're trying to, like, do basically any jump, actually, but that one in particular felt real bad. No, wait for me, guys! No, they didn't wait for me. Damn. Damn, 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 damn. Look. Bastards. This is so hard. No, fuck! We've been on this level for probably like half an hour. I love how we breeze through the rest of this world, and then this has just been like, this one level is just pure pain. Just ride it out, probably. Oh my god, I can't believe that worked. Well, we did it, everybody. We completed 5 worlds of Clustertruck. Medieval, you call that. I mean, I guess it kind of looks the part. What's the next one? Ancient, so I guess it's Greek-inspired. Well, yeah, that's about 3 hours of Clustertruck. A little over half the game. God, that's hard quite a lot of the time. Although, of course, again, a large part of it is that, as I've said before, it is very much in the vein of, like, shitposty physics-oriented games. You know, Goat Simulator and stuff like that. And that one where you played as a slice of bread. It's pretty fun. But also, like, how many more of these does the world even need? Nevertheless, if you're looking for a game to play and it needs to have a very funny title and you're willing to pay $15 for its not on sale price, or probably significantly less when it is on sale, this is a game. And not a terrible one either. Just be warned, you will be pissed off. I feel like this game also kind of has a little bit of like that sort of rage game DNA to it a little bit. You understand the concept that I'm talking about. The existence of such things is a little bit overblown, but also, I mean, the basic concept, we sort of understand it, right? This idea of a game that just sort of makes you very angry a lot of the time. But games that exist only for that purpose are significantly rarer than that. Anyway,